What's up, guys? This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And welcome back to another episode of Meaning Up Podcast, our 112th episode.
Wow.
We're doing it big. First episode 2019. How was your new year?
Really good. How was yours?
It was cool. You know, a lot of big news happened online.
Yeah.
We're still in the studio, so if anybody is wondering, we're here.
We're here.
Maybe nobody else is.
We're celebrating.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's crickets.
Crickets,
Won't hear any background noise.
Yeah, a lot of dust landing around. Thanos really, we got to bring. So, Ace isn't here.
Yes.
He's maybe in Arizona?
Yeah, he's back at home with family. So
Yeah.
obviously sending all of our love to him and his family while they enjoy their time together, you know.
Yeah.
He's here in spirit.
Here in spirit.
Here in spirit.
We obviously would normally have done, I guess, a best of the year for last year by this point. But Ace isn't here, and we need Ace for that. I mean,
Yeah,
come on, we
definitely,
can't do that
no.
otherwise. But we can't talk about Sam Mendes. I almost said Shawn Mendes.
Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes. We literally had a whole thing right before.
Mendes.
Sam Mendes. Apologies,
We're
Sam
going to be going
Mendes,
back and forth on that one, yeah.
If you're watching this episode.
Try our best.
Brilliant director. Has
Amazing.
a really long filmography. Well, not long filmography. Actually, kind of has a short filmography. He's more selective with his films. But
definitely a big impact, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, congrats to him. He won so big at the Golden Globes this past weekend.
Yeah,
I mean, like, that wasn't really expected. I think it was kind of, you know, unexpected from everybody.
Yeah,
like, nobody saw that coming. So good for him. Congrats.
Good for him. He's won a lot of he's had a lot of awards and acclaims for a lot of his movies. And obviously, we're going to talk about American Beauty, his feature film debut. We're going to talk about Revolutionary Road. He also got Oscar nominations and acclaim for that. Skyfall, I personally consider my favorite James Bond movie. And of course, we're gonna at the end of the episode, we're gonna have a review for 1917. We just saw it,
literally just walked out of it.
Yeah. So
got Chick-fil-A, came over here.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
Fresh in our minds.
Fresh in our minds. So I'm excited. I'm excited about this. Now we could just for some quick background, I guess want to say Shawn Mendes. For Sam Mendes, Sam Mendes, he obviously has like a theater background. He was a theater director for a long time before he transitioned into movies. And I think you can kind of see that in a lot of his work. I think in particular something like 1917 is
Definitely.
Like a perfect example.
I thought about that, and I didn't know about his background. So
yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and it makes it really interesting because that pressure and that adrenaline from directing a theatrical performance when there's no takes, there's no mess ups. You kind of have to run it back, and there's a lot of rehearsals and there's a lot of tense, character work and acting work that's put into it. And you can see through a lot of his films that a lot of the actors in his movies often get like awards attention. Obviously, American Beauty got a lot of awards attention. A Revolutionary Road, I believe both of the leads now were nominated. And obviously 1917 is just going to blow the water out this year.
That's really great, though, that he can kind of pull. Obviously, these are all very talented actors, and so part of it's them, but he's able to pull these performances from these actors. That is definitely something special. And, getting awards consideration with like American Beauty and Revolutionary Road and now 1917. That's a big deal. So
no, very big deal. I'm excited to break it down now. Break it down. Now out of the films that you've seen of Sam Mendes' filmography, do you see like a general through line through his films, or do you see kind of differing ideas and ideologies represented?
With two in specific, American Beauty and Away We Go, I saw a lot of the same themes, kind of like a deconstruction of the American dream, kind of like superficiality. Let me go to Away We Go. Kind of the breaking down of family and life. Kind of just like relationships, American culture, as I said, all of that kind of stuff, a discontentment with your life. Like I see that both specifically, and it's done in two different ways, which obviously we'll get to it when we get to those films. Right. But it's really interesting to look at. So that's something I noticed with those two in specific. But I'm not so familiar with his filmography. I planned on checking more out. But it's a new year. We're still recovering. But so what about you? Because I know you've seen a lot more than I have.
Yeah, no, I actually 100% agree. The deconstruction of the American family and nuclear family that you kind of you spoke about with American Beauty and Where We Go. I think that's also something we see in Revolutionary Road as well.
Okay.
That's literally a film about Leo and Kate Winslet trying to deal with each other's marriage and their ups and downs over like the course of like 20 some odd years or whatever. So it really goes into what like masculinity means in like a relationship too, right? Like what does fractured masculinity contribute to a relationship or a marriage or a family, nuclear family situation? And you even see, you know, to a different extent, you see the discontentment with American lifestyle and normality, for lack of a better term. Even in something like Jarhead with Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, he's a character who's a soldier, mostly because he's just kind of addicted to being at war. And when we see when he gets home towards the end of the film that he'd had a way more satisfying time going through the hellscape of the Gulf War than he does at home. So it's a really I think that's something that reads through a lot of his films too, which is really fascinating because he's a British director. He comes from Britain, so you know his kind of.
I wonder if he has that kind of like outside perspective, like of the American dream, seeing it from like an outsider's point of view. I wonder if that kind of like helps him capture it the way he does, because he's so accurate. Obviously, it's exaggerated, but it's so accurate, and he does it in a really like specific way that I enjoy a lot.
100%. Me too. So I guess that just kind of leads us right into our first movie, talking about American lifestyle, American Beauty, starring obviously Annette Bening, Wes Bentley, you know, a guy named Kevin Spelunky, and a really talented ensemble. This movie obviously won like Best Picture when it came out. Mia Suvari. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this movie won a ton of awards when it came out. Won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best lead actor, obviously with Kevin Spelunky, and
he who should not be named.
Who should not be named, and Conrad L. Hall also won an Oscar for the cinematography. Now, I watch this movie quite often because I really enjoy a lot of the editing that's in this movie. I think there are pitch perfect scenes of editing that are just presented throughout this film. To me, the perfect example I always go to is like the middle scene. I don't know if it's in the middle. It's probably closer towards the beginning, but where the main patriarch Lester of the household, he's arguing with Annette Bening, and they're going back and forth. Well, he's arguing with the whole family, and just ends with like the smashing place thing. To me, the way the scene builds is kind of like a microcosm of how much I like the movie, because it kind of starts off with like this normality, like kind of just average, basic lifestyle, but you can clearly see the main protagonist in our eyes, he's bored. And it's communicated just through the longness and the dreariness happening in the beginning of that scene, but it amplifies and it ramps up to something that's like completely unpredictable and insane. So I think that just kind of perfectly encaptures the movie, at least my reading of it. But what are things that stand out to you about American Beauty?
So something about this film, I saw it a bunch when I was kind of younger. You know, I had Tumblr. People would take those like photo sets of shots of the film because, first of all, it's beautifully directed, gorgeous, beautifully shot. Like, that's one thing that you can't deny. But the story is something I don't really visit that often, just because it's kind of like so dreary and dreadful with its deconstruction, because it is really accurate. And one of my biggest fears is just like being like 35, 40 years old and being so discontent with everything.
Right.
So huge fear of mine. So I don't really watch it too often, but I did watch it to prepare for this.
Right.
A scene that because you mentioned obviously the plates one. The other scene when Lester and Annette Bening, I forgot her name in the movie, but after having those like, you know, turbulent fights throughout the film, they do finally for a second like almost seem to like reconcile a little bit.
Right.
And they're kind of like on the couch. It seems like they're getting like closer, and then she's like, "Don't spill your beer on the couch," or whatever. You're about to spill the beer on the couch. And it ruins their moment.
Right.
And he has these really good like lines afterwards. He kind of says like, it's just a couch, like it's just stuff.
Yeah.
And that's Sam Mendes literally like speaking to us with our like American dream, kind of like that superficiality.
Right.
Saying like how it's not everything's like cracked up to be.
Right.
Like all of that, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I really think this movie is uniquely cinematic, especially from somebody like Sam Mendes. This is his first feature film. By the way, the year it came out in 1999, the other Best Picture nominees that year were also Being John Malkovich, the first feature for Spike Jonze.
And The Sixth Sense.
And The Sixth Sense, which was, I think, Shyamalan's third movie, but really the one that broke him out to the mainstream. But yeah, there were... this was, in 1999 in general, I think is one of the greatest years of Hollywood history ever. I mean, that year gave us also The Matrix, also a bunch of other amazing pieces of work. The Phantom Menace. And I think that with American Beauty in particular, it kind of really locked into like the late 90s mindset of like just the boredom and the discontentment of just with like American lifestyle. And, you know, there are critics now who kind of look back and reflect on this movie, critics and commentators who go back and reflect on this movie now and don't have as much of a favorable opinion on it. A lot of people have
said how I am.
Yeah, it's the Juno effect, right? Like with Juno, when we first saw Juno, we all loved Juno. Now we watch Juno.
I still love Juno.
I still love Juno.
That doesn't work for me.
I know, I still love Juno, but you know, that's the term, you know.
Definitely.
But American Beauty definitely suffers from that. I think it is unfortunately has this time capsule of it in and of itself where it's playing into that like late 90s feel, that you know, a lot of people, a lot of commentators, and salute to Amy Nicholson. I read a lot of her breakdowns for this too, kind of consider it like the pre 9/11. It's the perfect example of a pre 9/11 movie, right? Like where it's a point in American history where Americans weren't really worried about anything other than themselves, per se.
Yeah.
You know, there was no threat of war. The economy was doing pretty good. And there was kind of just like this idea of like what's going to happen next. Like you know, you're about to enter into a whole new millennium. Like what happens next? Is it all just going to be the same? Is it just, you know, and this is before the crazy toxic world that we live in now where there's plenty of conflict to draw from. But the conflict here just kind of draws within the household, within the family.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously the neighbors too. And we're going to talk about Wes Bentley's character and Chris Cooper's character and that whole relationship too. But the idea of like this midlife crisis being the epicenter of like this drama that essentially is not really about anything else other than this dude, you know, trying to figure out his life and his lifestyle and his family trying to navigate through his weirdness and his craziness. But it's fascinating to say the least. Also worth mentioning Alan Ball, who wrote the screenplay for this film. He did a couple of TV teleplays before this film, but this is also his first screenplay, his first official screenplay. So first time director, first screenplay. I also know Conrad Hall and Sam Mendes had, I read online that they had a lot of arguments on set because, you know, they were, you know, having a theater director getting acclimated with the idea of making something cinematic could be quite challenging. But this movie is uniquely cinematic too, I think, with like the boldness of the colors and everything.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Happiness?
I don't know if I have.
Because that's something that I would put those into like a similar vein. Like it's very, let me see when it came out. I know there was like a sequel a few years ago too.
Yeah, I think 1998, I think it says right here.
1998. It's like that kind of like dark comedy drama type of film, but it just reminds me so much of it. It's another one of those like kind of like very dreary. So it was funny that you mentioned that, like that was this kind of stuff, like, you know, encapsulates that time.
That time period. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I don't mind it. I think it's kind of a nice way to look at what the, you know, the general consensus is. And obviously the Oscars are representing of what Hollywood wants to present itself, and the fact that this is what is presented to us as the best of that year goes to speak a lot to the mindset of a lot of people, and a lot of people watching this movie. So yeah, I mean, also just to get the cat out of the bag. See what I did there? People have a lot of problem with the bag scene now. You know what I mean? Like I think that is an unfortunate case of the parody became more popular than like the actual movie itself. But I still think when I first saw American Beauty, I thought the bag videotape was kind of profound, you know. But it's
you know, I saw it on Tumblr. That's literally what I can think of. I just remember with the quotes. Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes it could feel a little pretentious, but I think for the time period that it came from, it was coming from a genuine place and from someone like Sam Mendes. I don't know. I don't see it as really like pretentious, and I still enjoy it. Yeah, that's one of the parts I do still enjoy.
Yeah.
Because obviously, not Kevin Spacey. Yeah. So that's one thing that didn't age well, but I think that did. Yeah, that did.
And let's talk about Lester Burnham just as a character. Like, he's really a shitty person. He's a terrible human being. Yeah. I think this movie plays a lot with the idea I spoke to at the beginning, the idea of like masculinity and fractured masculinity. And I think this is a real commentary on how, a lot of times fractured, kind of broken men look towards nostalgia as a means of revitalizing themselves. Yeah. I think this movie plays perfectly into that. The whole idea of like him buying a sports car and quitting his job and working at a McDonald's. He wants to be
being attracted to like a underage girl. Yeah, it's almost like as if he's acting like a impulsive 17-year-old.
Yeah, he wants to be a 17-year-old.
Yeah, he's like trying to get that life back.
Exactly. Because to him at that time period, there was no worries. There was no family to worry about, no wife to worry about, no nagging wife or kids. And it's really sad. I think that's something that a lot of men in real life actually are dealing with in and of themselves. And, this movie kind of addresses how it's so easy to just kind of fall into that. How dangerous this whole idea of like nostalgia and how dangerous this whole idea of like reliving your youth and the golden years can really be. Because at the end the whole idea of like him lifting weights and like trying to, it's just all
smoking weed, taking that up again.
Yeah. It just goes to it all adds to like the whole idea of like, and I think this movie kind of perfectly embodies like the like old school 1950s like lifestyle of living, right? Like the whole like ideal American family, white picket fence,
even the American Beauty roses,
right?
The shot of that, like, yeah, definitely.
And the movie incorporates a lot of those elements, but it provides like a satiristic like commentary on that as well.
Definitely.
So I think that's really what differentiates this movie to me, at least. It's just the commentary that it has on this lifestyle, and also how it affects the daughter too. The daughter who's Jane. She is literally so bored with her life, she falls in love with a boring ass dude like Ricky, Wes Bentley.
But he's kind of like exciting for her because he's like weird and he's not afraid to say what he like. I remember watching their interactions in the beginning. She almost seems like kind of like, oh. Because she's like, stop following me. And he's like, okay. And she's like, oh, what?
Right.
But yeah, when we're introduced to her, I believe the first time we're introduced to her, she's like Googling like breast augmentation. She's clearly like very like insecure and like sexuality in general plays a very big role in this film with each character.
Right.
With Lester, obviously, with Mina Savari's character.
Mina Savari's character is Jane's best friend. I'm trying to find it right now.
Yeah.
Angela.
Yeah. So with Lester and Angela, and then with Annette Bening's character and the other real estate man, and then obviously with Jane and Wes Bentley's character. Yeah. Even just all of that. So
and even Wes Bentley's father, Colonel Fitz.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole idea of closeted homosexuality. Yeah. Especially somebody who's in the military.
And then with Angela as well, when she keeps bragging about like all these different like instances, and then we find out like in the end that it was kind of like all like a ploy. It was all fake, like it was all like lies. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Do you think a movie like this kind of heroinizes those kind of like man baby characters, or do you think it's something that kind of holds Lester accountable, to say the least?
I believe it does throughout the film. I believe it holds him accountable because as we're watching it, we're like, this guy's shitty. Yeah. But then towards the end, like, spoiler for a movie that came out before.
Came out 20 years ago.
But spoiler if you haven't seen it. But obviously in the end, Wes Bentley's dad shoots him in the head, and he's kind of like looking at a picture of his family at the time.
Yeah.
And I think towards the end, I remember the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, oh, because he just admitted, he's like, I'm actually doing really well. I was like, oh, maybe, maybe he's like learned from all this and this is just kind of like that whole midlife crisis thing.
Yeah.
But throughout the film, I think it holds him accountable. Then at the end, maybe you're rooting for him for like a half a second, but then his story's over. But in the beginning, it does say that like in a year I'll be dead. So we know what's going to happen. But but I didn't know it was going to be so abruptly like that. And kind of in that instance. What about you?
I think it holds him accountable. I think the fact that it goes back and forth, right? Like he does get held accountable, and the fact that like he does have like these tumultuous relationships with his family. And, it obviously affects everybody in this family
definitely
negatively, but it's in some aspects positively too. At least we see Jane's character finding something that finding some contentment in her life. At least like and this is what kind of like makes me feel weird about this whole redemption thing, right? Like I don't like that the fact that him not sleeping with an underage girl is like a redeeming
like,
piece of like good for you, not being a pervert. So for that that's why I asked that question, because I'm like, is it really like?
No, I didn't get it from that. I got it from more. Because in that we're not applauding him for not sleeping with an underage girl. For me, it was more the fact that we're seeing this journey, and it does change the family. Possibly for the better. With like Jane, and then even with Annette Bening's character kind of getting this like confidence with like the gun at the end, which is not a good thing to do. I'm not condoning that. But she even seems revitalized. There's the scene where he's in the car and he's blasting music. He's working out and he's blasting music. He's singing along. And then we have that scene with her. She's doing the same thing once she's starting to get her stuff together with the real estate man and kind of like feeling like she's on top of the world.
Right.
So they all do have those progressions. And I don't know if it's because of what he started, which I'm thinking, I believe so.
Right.
Yeah.
And lastly, in terms of Annette Bening's character, she obviously was nominated for this movie too. Do you think she was a good like representation of like I guess quote unquote housewife or work wife?
Oh yeah.
Or what however that goes. Do you think it was too much, or do you think it was like the right amount that she was going for?
Well, I think this is, as I said before, kind of an exaggerated version of the American Dream. Obviously, it's not taken to this extent, but it really does show with her character and like how hardworking she is and things like that. And she always wants to be on top, but she's not getting there, and she's not like happy. But then they keep using that like phrase throughout the film with like what you present on the outside. So she's so superficial. Like she is incredibly superficial, mentioning the couch scene, mentioning when they go to the party, like the real estate party, and she's like, just act normal, whatever, but doesn't actually put effort in at home to maybe figure out how they can actually be normal, maybe.
Or the scene I think about too is like when she's getting ready for the open house, and then like she closes all the blinds and she starts breaking down and crying.
Yes, exactly. So it's one of those things, like as I said before, where it shows that it's not everything like behind the scenes is what it's cracked up to be on the outside. Just because something looks beautiful doesn't mean it actually is. And it kind of holds a mirror to maybe society like at that point in time.
Yes.
With all of that. So
absolutely. Yeah. So American Beauty, I enjoy still. I think it's a great film. I think a lot of people do enjoy it, but looking back on it in hindsight, a lot of people, it's weird. It's a weird film, to say the least.
Yeah, I just don't really visit it too much just because of what I said. It's dreary, but I do think it's a beautifully made film. Like, there's no doubt about that. The performances are great.
Yeah, for sure. Next on Mr. Sam Mendes' filmography is Road to Perdition. It actually follows the story of, like, this mob enforcer's son. They kind of go on a run together and evading like the head mob guy, who's played by Tom Hanks. So this is significant, I think, because for one, it's based on a graphic novel. So it's like kind of a comic book movie, but not really, no superheroes.
Yeah, no, I've never seen this one, so I'm happy to hear you talk about it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time either, so I'm not going to have like the most accurate plot details. Yeah. But I'll go by
I'm excited to hear what you think,
the notable stuff. Tom Hanks is a bad guy. He plays he plays one of the mob guys, and it really it's a highly stylized movie. It kind of, the fact that it's based on the graphic novel, you can clearly tell it has like those black and white, like a starch black and white, high contrast kind of look and feel to it. Kind of akin to like Sin City almost. But Sin City's way more stylized and way more, colorful and or I guess it's in black and white, but way more starch. But this movie, it has that softer kind of Sam Mendes touch. Again, collaborating with Conrad Hall for the cinematography for this movie, and I think they even might have won an Oscar for cinematography for this film too. The performances are great. The score by we didn't talk about the score in American Beauty, but the score in American Beauty is the score in American Beauty is also done by Thomas Newman, who does the score for this. Beautiful score in American Beauty and in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think more than anything, though, this is kind of a quintessential just crime gangster movie. Kind of going back to that homage in that genre of like the 1930s and 40s old school gangster flicks, but adding a more humanistic perspective, right? Putting a kid at the center of this drama gives it that extra bit of weight to it, gives it that extra bit of like naivety and this exposure to that kind of lifestyle that what ultimately ends up leading into like a revenge story. It's to me this is honestly one of Sam Mendes' most underrated films. I think he deals with a lot of ideas when it comes, when we're talking about old school gangsters, a lot of that kind of grew out of the rise of like prohibition and stuff like that. So it kind of again speaks to the American dream thing and the fact that like the criminal, seedy underbelly of American history was driven by this idea of advancement and going to the top and moving forward. I think this movie deals with that really, really well.
Yeah.
Highly stylized, like I said, and very visually beautiful. So I'd recommend anybody who hasn't checked out Road to Perdition. This is definitely one that you would have to check out.
Yeah, no, sure. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So there, deeper themes and meanings. It's a crime movie. It's a gangster movie. It deals with, like I said, money, crime, the causes and the reasonality and the violence behind a lot of these things, behind a lot of early mob-ish type of feels. But it deals with all of those topics pretty well, I think. So I'd again highly recommend checking it out.
Cool.
So yeah. Next one, Mr. Sam Mendes' filmography, Jarhead.
Which I have also not seen.
You've also not seen. That's totally cool though, because I love Jarhead.
Yeah, I'll just sit back. Listen to you.
Yeah, let's talk about Jarhead, because I had a big Jake Gyllenhaal kick for a while.
Don't we all?
Yeah, we all love Jake Gyllenhaal, right? Like, I obviously Donnie Darko was a really cool movie, so I was like, let me just go ahead and like see what else this guy's done, right? Now this movie is a very weird war film. Like it is essentially nobody really gets there are like action scenes and stuff like that, but it's not really about the war. It's really about waiting around during war. It's the main character, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Anthony, he is kind of dealing with this kind of psychological journey of like trying to figure out what exactly his purpose is, right? Like what is he meant to do? Like he goes off and to become this Marine sniper who is excited about action. He really wants to be in the action, but he doesn't really have like a life at home that he's satisfied with. So the reason he keeps going back and keeps being deployed is just simply because he doesn't like his home situation.
Yeah,
essentially, and we learn that a lot through like the end of the film. He's a sniper during the Gulf War. Obviously, I think that's early '90s or whenever the Gulf War was, and the majority of this film is just him at the combat base, just waiting, waiting to be sent out to action. Him and Jamie Foxx's character is like one of the sergeants. It's the idea of like the amount of patience that's required for being for one, a military guy, and for two, a sniper. Because there's a key moment at the end of the film where he literally he is sent out on a mission. He's gone to deploy that mission, and he's waiting on the clearance to make the shot.
Yeah.
And
I feel like really fast. I feel like that patience is something we don't really see that often. I'm trying to think of like another kind of like military like war film.
Yeah.
That kind of has that, because usually it's like fast, quick, go. So that is cool. That sounds really like kind of like refreshing for a film like that.
Yeah, and I think what really like makes it stand out with that kind of patience and like eeriness. I mean, there's literally a scene where you see all of the soldiers just like huddled around in a circle watching lizards fight each other, because that's literally all they have to do.
Oh, wow.
But it's it also plays a lot with the idea of like, you know, in the face of this journey, in the face of fighting at war, what's the actual cost? Because we see these lavish, like not lavish per se, but like these big military bases and all of these soldiers being deployed. And for a large part of the movie, they're just kind of walking around with these burning oil wells kind of going up behind them at points throughout the movie. So it's kind of just like, and at least in my interpretation, it just the whole story and the whole visual aesthetic of this film is just speaking to the fact that like war is really nothing but burning oil, but going to collect assets for whatever I guess government's at interest, and it doesn't really have a positive effect on the people you're actually sending. So it really plays with that. There's a scene at the end of the movie too where he wants to take a pivotal shot, but and he's really excited to do that, but his commanding officer doesn't want to give him that opportunity, so he flips out and just has like this great scene, you know, where he's kind of flipping out like, I only came here to do one thing, and you're not letting me do that thing. So it's really speaks to a lot of those kind of deeper, darker themes of like war and like the psychological effect that it can have on somebody. So I dig it. I love this movie. Jake Gyllenhaal, as always, kills it. So I love it. Speaking
of Jake Gyllenhaal, did you see him in the John Mulaney recent special that just came out? I think it came out around Christmas time.
Oh, no, I missed it.
So good. Wacky.
Really. Yeah.
I loved it. I never knew how much I needed John Mulaney and Jake Gyllenhaal together. Anyways.
Right. No, it's really... No, I love Jake Gyllenhaal, so
yeah,
I got to check that out.
Great.
Next on Sam Mendes' filmography is Revolutionary Road. So briefly, this one kind of approaches a lot of the same themes as American Beauty, whereas I kind of alluded to before where American Beauty kind of embodies like that 1950s, like, traditional American household and family and white picket fence.
Yeah.
This movie, Revolutionary Road, is quite literally about that. Mm-hmm. It's about Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Kate Winslet's character dealing with a 20-plus odd year span of marriage and how they're going to reconcile with that, and what does it mean to be a husband, what does it mean to be a wife, and what is, especially during those time periods where there is this kind of like expectation for marriage and relationships. So it really deals with a lot of those topics really well. Are you familiar with this movie? Like, at all?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it like forever ago, but I barely remember it.
Yeah. No, it I think that if anything, this movie just goes to show the acting force of Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio.
They have amazing chemistry.
I
feel like they are two people. I'm gonna check that one out just because I do love their chemistry together, and I love Kate Winslet.
Yeah, no, and this movie ended up winning like so many awards and got so many nominations, and obviously Kate Winslet, Leo reunited from Titanic. It's funny. I was actually on set. And I think I'll tell you this story off air. But I was on set, and somebody was like, "Hey, what's that one movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet?" I was like, "Oh, Revolutionary Road." And then like, no, clearly the most obvious answer, the biggest movie of all time, Titanic. Yeah, no, but it really goes to show. And I think at the time, Kate Winslet was actually dating Sam Mendes.
They were married, right?
Or married, yeah. I think they probably were married during that time.
I think they might have been married. Yeah. That's so funny.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, dealing with that, it's a really, it really deals again with the themes that Sam Mendes is known and prominent for. So
yeah. That's cool. I just found out they were married from 2003 to 2011. So
really?
During that time.
Yep, there it is. Okay, so I really don't have anything else to say about the Revolutionary Road. I mean, I would recommend you check it out. It, again, deals with themes of like advancing. Also deals with themes of advancing technology, too. By the end of it, our main character, Leonardo DiCaprio, ends up like working at a computer store. So it really goes to show you like from the beginning of their relationship in like the late 40s to like ending up in like the 70s or I think it might be the 80s. I'm not sure. But with that whole span and that lifestyle, Breeze is really incredible.
In your opinion, do you think it's one of the better of his filmography?
I think this plays more into like the theater aspect of his filmography for sure. I think mostly because it's very actor centric. Yeah. And I'm not to say it's like not cinematic because it is very cinematic. But it has it's more about the performances and all and that side of it, which I can appreciate and respect a whole lot. Yeah. The reason I familiar with this movie actually is because this is really one of the first Oscar movies I ever was like, oh, I actually kind of want to check this out. Weirdly enough, because as a 2008 when I was like 10 or 11, no, I had to be 12. And watching this movie come up on screen at like the Oscar ceremony, I was like, what is this? This seems like really weird and quiet and grown up. Grown up was the word. So this was like one of my first grown up movies. So
I remember doing the same thing watching the Oscars when I was younger. I'm like, okay, I'm like writing a list to go to Blockbuster or whatever was happening at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what we've got so far. Now, when we get back from the break, we're going to break down Away We Go, Skyfall, Spectre, and a review of 1917. So be sure to check that out, y'all.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. With the 4/5 divide you in half. You getting at me equals a bloodbath. You do the math, take you out the equation.
The following is from our Golden Globe reaction video. Check it out.
Listen, bruh, this is Tarantino's worst movie. Let's just say it because I'm gonna say it. And this, you're talking to the guy. I had a whole class on Tarantino. I've talked about Tarantino extensively on this podcast and on plenty of other podcasts. I wouldn't consider myself a Tarantino fanboy because I could equally shit on him for a lot of the things he does outside of his movies and a lot of things that are done inside of his movies too. But that being said, let's have a real conversation about this movie for a second. This is not a Best Picture movie. No, it's not.
It's not.
Out of the best comedy and musical category, what was the other nominees?
Jojo Rabbit, Knives Out, Rocketman, and Dolomite.
Okay, so you're literally
every single one is better.
You're literally talking about literally the most stacked category. This category is because the comedy and musical category is always like the shit where they just throw like whatever, you know. This is probably the most stacked that category has been in a long time. And, I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood definitely has the most buzz out of those movies. Yeah. It definitely, even before going into the season, for sure.
Also,
had the most buzz.
Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to this episode of Meaning of Podcast. We are continuing our breakdown of the Sam Mendes filmography. I think we're doing a pretty decent job so far. I'm always curious, like, if the directors are ever going to watch the show, how do you think we're going to do?
Oh, yeah. Oscar winner Sam Mendes. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, he's totally watching.
He's sitting down. Hey.
I'd really hate for M. Night Shyamalan to watch our episode because, like, we spend a cool 30 minutes before the show even starts, like, not even talking about him. So,
oh my God. Okay, I thought you were going to say you were going in on him or anything, like his filmography.
Oh, we did that too.
No, I wish I would have been there. M. Night, if you're watching, I would have defended you. So that's just me, though.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was as much shitting as much as it was like skip.
Oh, God. Well, okay, that's understandable for a few. Very hit or miss. Yeah. But to continue, I am going to be talking about Away We Go.
Yeah.
So Away We Go stars a couple played by John Krasinski and Maya Rudolph, obviously directed by Sam Mendes, and they're soon-to-be parents, and it definitely goes into that similar vein that we've been talking about with American family and American life. It explores a bunch of themes with that breaking down of family and life.
Exactly.
both characters kind of have like a shitty family situation to begin with, like their own families apart from each other. John Krasinski plays Bert, and Bert's parents decide to move out of the country a month before their grandchild's being born and just leave to Germany for like years or whatever. And then Maya Rudolph plays Verona, and her parents are both deceased. And these certain aspects kind of affect their relationship as well. We find out with some specific things later on, like Bert proposing to Verona, and she keeps saying no, but the reason why is because her parents wouldn't be able to attend the wedding. Oh, wow. Because they're deceased. But yeah, relationships in American culture. Throughout this film, it's kind of like a road trip movie. Okay. Not so much road, more trip, more destination. But throughout this film, they visit a bunch of people from their past. They visit like old bosses, college friends, cousins, and we get a snapshot of each person that they visit's life. So they visit like a cousin, and that cousin's getting a divorce. They visit like the bosses, and the bosses and their children have like a very weird relationship. So they decide to leave and go visit somebody else. Right. So yeah, and also Allison Janney is also in this, and I know she's in American Beauty. So
I was gonna say John Krasinski is also in Jarhead.
Oh yeah, cool. So he gets those people coming back. Yeah. But then, as I said before, there's that sense of like desperation and discontentment. They kind of feel like unfulfilled. And two lines I took from the film that were very like, just it's nothing like profound, but it's like they'd be laying in bed and they ask each other, they're like, are we fuck ups? And they're like, what are we gonna do? Because she's pregnant. They're going to be having a child, and they still don't feel like they're ready for it. Right. Because it does happen unexpectedly. They weren't planning on it. We get that from the opening shot or the opening scene, which is really funny. Yeah. It's really funny. But they're constantly questioning the future and kind of like giving into their own self-doubt. Not super confident. But the difference between something, because you talked about like toxic masculinity and things like that. None of that in here. John Krasinski is an amazing character. He's like the comedic relief. Yeah, he's like very, very sweet. They're both characters are really great. You don't look at them and you're like, oh, these are like shitty people. You know, you're rooting for them even though they have their own self-doubt. Right. Yeah, and it explores these kind of themes in a real and like charming way versus something like American Beauty. So it's interesting to see how they have similar themes handled completely differently. Right. Because obviously these themes are present in a lot of his other work, but this is a more sincere, charming way of doing it. So I would recommend checking it out. I think it's a cute little film. You know, it ends sweet. So something like American Beauty or things like that, like, you know, with their endings. But this one is definitely, it wraps it up and you kind of feel good. So even though it has these drearier themes, because I mentioned with American Beauty that the reason why I avoid it is because it is like dreadful. Right. And all of those, it does the same exact thing, but has such a different outcome. That's good. Yeah. And that's I enjoyed it.
And that's honestly like good to hear because, you know, you need like a lighter side to your like filmography.
Definitely.
For sure. I did have a question though in regards to where we go. Like, do you know, obviously like we're talking about American Beauty and like the themes of like Americanism. Do you think there's a uniquely like American thing about this movie, or do you think it's more like a more general like more human thing?
I think it's not more like American Dream white picket fence the way American Beauty is, but it is interesting that when they do travel, because they visit like I think like 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 different families, and they're seeing that you get snapshots of realistic American families without that white picket fence. They literally go and like his brother's getting divorced and he's like super upset, or like he visits his I think that's the right example, but then he visits somebody else and they can't have children, but they have like 5 adopted children. Okay. So
it's not cynical.
It's not cynical, it's just realistic. So it's exploring these themes in a different way than American Beauty does, and in a way that I really, really enjoyed when I watched it, because with those kind of like sense of like discontentment and like unfulfilled life, they're not unhappy.
Right.
They're more nervous.
Right.
Yeah, they're more nervous for what's to come because they weren't expecting this child. So it's cool how they kind of navigate through all of that, and it ends in a good way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And well, I don't agree because I haven't seen it. But I think it's interesting. And speaking on the fact that it's a road movie, it also goes to say that Road to Perdition is also a road movie. You know, Revolutionary Road, not necessarily a road per se, but road. And also Jarhead's kind of a travel movie. I mean, it's just traveling through war, but still traveling. So it's kind of fascinating that, and obviously 1917 is all about traveling from one spot to another.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that sense of momentum is a constant thing through Sam Mendes' filmography.
Yeah, it's cool to kind of like notice this stuff as you reflect on it as a whole, something that you might not see right away, but then we're like, oh, also like Allison Janney's in this, and then this actor's in that as well. So it's a cool thing to kind of like look on.
Yeah, no, exactly. So away we go. Do you recommend it to people?
I do. I really enjoyed it. If you kind of like smaller, more like charming films, which I am a sucker for. I don't think it's like the greatest thing he's ever done, but I do think it's something that's kind of refreshing compared to the more cynical aspects of the other films.
Exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. So I guess we're moving on to Skyfall.
Yep.
Now, Skyfall is the 23rd James Bond movie. I need to check that to make sure. But up front, I'm a big James Bond fan. And I mean, I'm a real James Bond fan, as in I watched like all 23 of them. Or 24 now with Spectre. Thank you. No applause needed. No applause needed. Whew. It actually is a lot.
Put in the work.
No, it is a lot because only like a third of them are actually really good. And the other ones are just like, oh my god. But this is Daniel Craig's third time playing the part of James Bond. This to me is my personal favorite James Bond movie because to me it's the perfect mix of like modern action, gorgeous cinematography. This is the most beautiful James Bond movie, hands down, no doubt. Roger Deakins was the DP behind this. He also DP'd 1917 and Jarhead as well. Very beautiful film. Also one of the ones that was shot on the Arri Alexa cameras too. So this is one of the early digital explorations that Roger Deakins was having too, and you could totally tell that on screen. Just how bold and explosive this movie is from like a cinematography perspective. But also, it's the perfect mixture of like the old school classic James Bond too. Like you see him get that classic car back. He's wearing the suits nice and tight. Like everything about this movie. As a great bad guy, Javier Bardem is probably the best Bond villain we've had in like a super long time. So I really, really love Skyfall. Like I said, my favorite James Bond movie, best James Bond song too, maybe of all time.
The Adele.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
it'll be tough for me with that one. It'll go probably Goldfinger, too, from like the '60s. But this one.
Yeah, you're a James Bond fan. I'm I know the Skyfall song.
Yeah, you've definitely heard Goldfinger. I know that for sure because that was a radio hit. But yeah, the Adele one, mind blowing. Yeah,
so good.
We even won the Oscar for best song that year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
wow.
Well deserved. And so have you seen Skyfall? Or?
I've seen not all of the James Bonds, all of the Daniel Craig ones so far, and then also a few Pierce Brosnan because my dad really likes it. But honestly, I barely paid attention. I think I definitely need to like dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I also dated somebody who made me watch Casino Royale.
Oh, really?
I remember that. So I like all of them, but I don't remember them. I don't know why. I'm like a huge Mission Impossible fan and like things like that. So not comparing the two.
Right.
But I do think like it's something that I would be interested in if I actually gave it a chance, which I never really did before. It was kind of like white noise, like background. I'm like on my phone, not paying attention. So
right. I think what makes Skyfall stands out too is the Sam Mendes touch. It does kind of make Bond less about the action and more about the person, the character.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially when we're talking about in today's era, and I always mention this a lot on the podcast, the idea of like metamodernism, right? Like what is metamodernism? And the idea of like how meta something can be in the context of like a franchise or just representing anything in Hollywood, right? And we live in that era. And I think Skyfall kind of embodies that too, because this is the first movie where we're kind of tapping into the origin story of James Bond. Like we go to see like his family home. We see like he had a family and has parents and stuff like that. And the other James Bond movies, they don't really touch on that. It's more of just like the solo man, the spy man, whatever. But this movie is actually about something. It's actually about going home. It's also about aging too. Like this movie plays big on aging. Daniel Craig was 43 when he played this part in this movie for Skyfall, and a lot of this movie incorporates the idea of like him having a fucked up knee or being old just in general, and building yourself back up to being the James Bond that you once were. So that's definitely the Sam Mendes touch as compared to Casino Royale is more of like a straight up action thriller movie, and then so was Quantum of Solace, but this movie actually added a little more weight and added a lot of mythology to the James Bond character as well.
Dang,
so
okay.
I really appreciate what this movie did too. Also, the return of Dame Judi Dench in this movie as M is also really cool too. I mean, she was in Casino Royale as well, but she's actually she's the only character in James Bond where she was in the Pierce Brosnan ones and in this. So like it's cool seeing that return too.
And then in Cats.
And in Cats too. In Cats.
So only actor to do that as well.
Hey, what can you do? I mean, it's Cats, you know. And yeah, Javier Bardem as the main bad guy. I forget the guy's name. Salva. He one of the best Bond villains, hands down, no questions. That is funny, but it's menacing. He's doing like a Heath Ledger Joker kind of performance too, but not as like extreme. But he plays that like same kind of twisted thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I'm gonna say this might be like a slight bit of a hot take. I don't consider it a hot take. But if you break down this movie plot point by plot point, it does take beat from beat, like the same exact cues as like The Dark Knight, like almost beat for beat. There's moments where he goes to Shanghai in the same kind of fashion that Batman goes to China in that movie to explore this mission, and then we have Javier Bardem as like the Joker-esque character who intentionally gets himself caught only to free himself. So then he has this bigger play at hand. So yeah, it does. This
makes me want to watch it more.
Yeah, you should. You should. I recommend it, and that's not a slight on this movie.
Yeah, I know, because you love it. You're singing its praises.
Yeah,
so.
I love this movie, and I think if you're gonna do a Dark Knight James Bond movie, this is the one to do it, and I think they did a really good job with it. And it kind of does have that like realistic element of like action in and of itself too. So yeah, so much good about this movie. I really love this movie. Ralph Fiennes as one of the head British, government parliament dudes or whatever. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
All of it's just really, really great. I'm a big fan of this movie. So
awesome.
Yeah. And then the Spectre. Spectre is the second James Bond movie that Sam Mendes did, and that one I'm not as big of a fan of personally. I think it was a little bit of a waste of potential. They were reintroducing Blofeld into the equation. Blofeld is like this iconic Bond villain going way back to like the the Sean Connery days. So I was kind of excited to see that, and especially when you tell me that Christoph Waltz is supposed to be playing that part. It didn't really do it for me. I think this is one of the most expensive movies ever made too, and
ever made.
Yeah, I think the budget's like almost $300 million on this movie, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see, you could for sure see the money on screen. There's literally a moment, and I will never understand on God's holy earth why they did this. There's an entire like damn near like how you call those, like energy you know how big like an energy plant is, right? Like like or a solar plant or something like that. There's a set piece that's set there, and then the entire thing blows up.
Let's go home. It's not over yet.
And they filmed that practically. I'm talking about like literally like.
Do they just want to burn money?
It literally is burning money, and
oh my,
by
literally burning money. Yeah.
And by the way, they did it all in like this one like long shot. So you see like actually like James Bond turn around and he looks back and the whole thing's like exploding. It's kind of epic. But then you watch the behind the scenes and they're like, yeah, we really did this. I'm like, this is a $300 million movie.
Gosh.
But I want to, I still. it's bold. You know what I mean? It's bold to spend that kind of money, but I don't think the story wasn't as bold for me. And yeah, I don't, I think eventually sometime down the line, me and Ace and obviously you will do like a meaning of Daniel Craig's James Bond. I have to ask.
Well,
Ace
I
about
mean,
that.
the new one's coming.
The new one's coming.
I'm excited for this one. So
Yeah.
I planned on checking out the other Daniel Craig ones again.
Yeah,
before this one in
Yeah.
preparation. So
Yeah.
I'll do that before we also talk about it if Ace is okay with it.
Yeah, if Ace is okay. Yeah, they were asking
To all agree.
via the audience.
Ace, if you're watching in Phoenix.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that would be actually a great way to kind of explore like the differences and shifts from when 2006 from when it started to now, because Daniel Craig I think is, if not the second longest running James Bond that we've ever had. So
I heard about that. Is Casino Royale the second one of his?
This is first. Yeah,
that's the first one. Okay.
Yeah, Casino Royale is his first. Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre.
All right, I got the
this
James
one.
Bond expert.
Yeah, I don't know about expert.
You're about to be the only one talking. Actually, no. Ace loves James Bond too.
He loves Craig.
So I'm gonna be sitting back, and you guys are just gonna go back and forth.
Yeah, nah. I'm sure when you watch Craig's movies, you're gonna love them too. So yeah, finally, last but not least, we are here at the 1917 review. We literally just saw it right before
just walked out. So mine is basically an initial review because we got out of it like an hour ago.
Yeah.
This was your second time watching it, so you had a little bit more time to like sit on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So are you asking me what I think about it?
Yes, I want to start with you.
Oh, you want to start with me? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just say this. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a brilliantly made movie. The style, the cinematography, the editing, well, not really as much editing, but the pacing, I guess in this case, pacing is a better term for it. The magnitude, the scale of this movie is breathtaking.
Yeah.
The production design, obviously. Did I say the cinematography already? Because I'm gonna say
possibly,
it again.
but cinematography. Let's
Roger Deakins
to the second power.
Roger Deakins just absolutely smoking it out there.
Yeah.
I think as a technical movie, it's a blast and it's a thrill ride and might be a best picture of the year. The first time I saw it, I respected the filmmaking of it and respected what the movie was doing.
Yeah.
I was, the typical RB3 hater brain went right to. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The typical RB3 hater brain went right to this one take shit, right? Like, and the only reason why is because like I love one takes, and Ace will know. Like Ace literally watched me break down 100 one takes on this podcast before, and so I love the idea of a one take. I love what one takes do and what they're supposed to represent, and I love Birdman too. So my only thing with seeing this the first time was only thing I could think is, oh, that shot's from Children of Men. Oh, that shot's from this other movie or London Is Fallen. Like London Is Fallen has a one take too.
What?
Surprisingly enough, yeah. So there's a couple of times I'm like, that's from that, that's from that, that's from that, that's from that, and I guess the first time I saw it, that just distracted me too much from like actually enjoying the film. But upon seeing it the second time, I really cared less about what was influencing this or what kind of thing this derived from, and just really engaging in the story. And the story is actually really engaging and personal and honest. So I really respect the heck out of this movie.
Yeah, especially, well, first of all, I'm going to say I really, really enjoyed it. I told you, like, right when it ended, I was, like, speechless just because I felt so much.
Yes.
Throughout the entire thing. Oh my God. You literally kept laughing at me because I was like shaking. I was like, oh my God. So I really loved it. It really moved me in a lot of ways because it is incredibly genuine and sincere and heartfelt. And especially you can feel that because it is to Sam Mendes.
Right.
This type of story. At the end, it's dedicated to, I believe, his grandfather.
Yes.
His grandfather. So you can tell how sincere he is with the story, and I feel like he was the kind of person who was made to helm something like this.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, the two main actors.
Yeah, I believe they're Dean Charles Chapman, who played Lance. He played Blake, and the other one was George Mackay, who played the main character, Sofield, I think is the name.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But those two.
They did incredible. They did so incredible. Even just watching, gosh, with those. See, I was the opposite of you with something like that. But of course, like, you have an editor's brain. You have like that stuff that you pay attention to so much, and like shots and things like that. And of course, I do as well. But but you're really on that. And I don't know. I kind of felt like for the story, since it's focused on these two men, obviously no spoilers. So I'm going to be pretty vague with this, but focusing on their journey together, I feel like something like this is really beneficial. Like kind of doing those like long takes where the whole entire film looks like it's one shot, because we're following them in this very real, this very genuine like journey that they're going on. It's hard to watch. It's very tense and scary at times because that's how it was in that situation in real life back in 1917.
Exactly.
You know? And so
dirty, gritty.
Yeah. And some of the blocking that of like the blocking in the shots was so stunning. There was literally like one scene that I literally just want to blow that up and give it to my grandpa for him to hang up. I know he would just love it. So yeah, I thought it was really spectacular. I think he deserves a lot of the buzz he's getting right now. You know.
Yeah.
This kind of, obviously it doesn't release wide until this weekend, so there hasn't been as much buzz besides like the film community already.
Right.
But I know like my uncle really wants to go see it, and so I'm excited for the general public to be able to witness something like this because I do think it's something very refreshing, different. Take on a war film.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, this is the first war movie we've ever seen done in this style. I mean, obviously, Birdman is more of a contained movie. It's more of like inside of a theater.
Definitely.
And it, is and mostly interiors. This movie's mostly exteriors, and they found a lot of creative ways to add variety to the one take thing because it could have been very easy for it just to be a camera that's like lingering behind these two guys the entire time or in front of these two guys the entire time. But they actually find creative ways to get different compositions in there.
Yeah.
They find, again, pacing is a big part of it too. Like I never felt bored during this movie. Even in the scenes that are a little more quieter, you still feel like the energy and momentum carrying through. Everything on the technical level, like I said, is just absolutely brilliant. I'm excited to see this movie win best cinematography and best visual effects because there are some great effects in this too. Quiet effects that I think most people won't even catch on to.
I saw a picture on Twitter, and I don't know if you're able to like put something on the screen right now, but I'll send it to you. It is a before and after with like the color grading or something. Oh my God, it is stunning. It is so stunning. So seeing that kind of like brought to life on screen actually. Oh my gosh.
I think Company 3 was the company that did the color correction on this coloring, and they also did a lot of movies this year like Joker and a few others that like are brilliant. And I mean, listen, I'm selfish because I'm an editor and cinematography guy, but if they should add a colorist award to the Oscars, honestly, because like these movies are looking better and better every single year. So
it really is so insane how gorgeous it is. I follow accounts on Twitter and Instagram that's like cinema palettes. And it's just shots and just showing the palette, and oh my gosh, I love it so much. So I'm looking forward to seeing this one on something like that because it's beautiful.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'd highly recommend checking out 1917. I would also I want to throw a quick shout out to some other long take movies that most people might have not seen because I think they're absolutely brilliant. Obviously Birdman, Children of Men is Alfonso Cuarón, and he has, that's not an underrated film by any stretch of the imaginations, but there's a lot of long takes in that too. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that remind me of The Revenant as well, so I want to shout that movie out too. One of my absolutely positively favorite movies ever made that I saw in film school is this one that came out in 2000s called, and I'm really getting the name wrong, but it's called the Weckmeister's Harmonies. It's like this Hungarian film that came out like 2000s, and literally the entire movie is 39 11-minute one-take shots, just all like so 39 individual scenes just all done in one take. At the time, they're before digital, you could only do 11 minutes in a film canister to keep the take going. So they're all 11.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's like 39 11-minute scenes that all add to like this bigger, weird, surrealist story, but the shots in themselves are like brilliant and impressive and absolutely insane. So I had a great time doing our episode on Sam Mendes. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, no, definitely. I loved being able to check this all out again, and it is cool to see all of it kind of like laid out. And, you know, congratulations to him. He's doing absolutely incredible right now.
Yeah.
He's getting all that acclaim.
His first movie, he won big awards. Looks like his most recent movie. It's going to also be a lot of big awards. Do you think 1917 is a front runner for Best Picture? Or?
Oh, gosh, that's a loaded question. I think after something like this, it's definitely more in the conversation maybe than it was before. I feel like it's getting more to the forefront of people's minds, especially even just general movie-going audience. Now people are starting to get it a lot more. We see all these articles, things like that. So, yeah, and even a personal thing. I'm not announcing my list yet, but it's up there. It's in
up
it.
There for you too.
It's
yeah,
in it.
Okay, nice.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
What about you? Do you think it's a front runner?
For Best Picture?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's no denying like the technical achievement of it. It's almost, I mean, I don't want to say it's like a cheat code, but it is almost like a cheat code to like give the Best Director award to like the movie that's all one take. Like, and by the way, totally deserving because I think there's something like over 1,600 extras in this movie or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The fact that they were all able to like do what they did, I was just like, yo,
the fact that if one extra like fucked up, they would have had to do the whole thing over. Yeah. Not the whole movie because I can tell where the cuts were for sure.
I was really trying. I could tell in a few, but like I was trying to look out for it. I definitely did not find all of them. So they did a really good job. But you're, of course, you have an eagle eye with that kind of stuff.
I do, and also they did a lot with CGI. So like I could tell when more CGI-ish moments. But yeah, it's great. I think it's brilliant. So and I think if anybody deserves Best Director right now, it's probably Sam Mendes. So
yeah, I'm excited for him. Go Sam Mendes.
Go Sam Mendes.
Do your thing.
Do your thing, bro.
It's
all
2020.
Right. 2020 is the year of Sam Mendes, it looks like. And with that's the end of the Meaning of podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Sabrina, where can people find you?
On Instagram and Twitter at Sabrina X Monica.
You can find me at Director RB3 across all platforms.
And for First Cut, we're on Instagram and Twitter at First Cut TMO. And I just want to say also, I mean, hey to everybody who's just joining us on the channel.
Yeah, I know. I should. Hey, we should give a round of applause for that. Yeah. We should have done that at the begining. Most people only watch the first 15 minutes.
I know. Of this podcast. Gosh, now it's just us. We're congratulating each other.
Yeah, I know. But hey, we're here. And yeah, thank you so much. We're over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube.
That's so exciting.
The podcast audience is still growing too, so thank you guys so much. And by the way, for all of our YouTube listeners who don't know about our podcast feed, go to listen to the Meaning of podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. I think they even have like a Google Podcast app. We're on that too. So yeah. I didn't
even know that.
Yeah. Subscribe.
And I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. Yeah, exactly. Subscribe to First Cut across all platforms, both YouTube and on podcasts.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys so much for the love we've been getting on Instagram, Twitter. Like, we enjoy that all so much. We read every single comment, so be sure to leave any comments, questions, suggestions. Want to fight us on any topic? Do it. Yeah, we're open to it.
Exactly. And guess what? Ace is back next week, y'all.
Hey.
Let's go. So yeah, we're super excited for that. So
yeah.
All right, for the Meaning of podcast, I'm RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And we're peacing out, y'all. Peace out.